Hey, you want to watch some TV or something?
Skip it. Well, I'm getting ready to watch a video.
Really? What?
Nothing but foul language and toilet humor.
I'm disgusted and repulsed and I can't look away.
I need these things! I need these things! Tell me, do you want to go? We're stopping on the color line.
Oh, no way, Jose.
This just in, go to hell!
This conversation can serve no purpose anymore.
Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!
We are Watch Skip Plus. We are a new streaming or theatrical movie review podcast, your one-stop shop for movie reviews and recommendations. We tell you whether to watch or skip, and we are a podcast with a lifestyle twist. And so the plus in our title means you get a bonus review, a lifestyle bonus review. I am Cupcake. I'm joined by my co-host MC. As you all know, if you are regularly following us, and we hope that you will like, subscribe in whatever tabs, wherever the buttons are showing up, I don't know. Like, subscribe to us on YouTube. Please leave a review. Also, you can find us on Spotify. Spotify also has video now. So I don't know. If you don't like the YouTubes, then you come on up to Spotify. Anyway, we didn't have an episode last week because MC was sick. He may actually cough a little. So just, it's okay, folks. He cannot spread whatever it is through the radio. If that happens, that's an issue. I just said radio too, by the way.
Nice.
I'm 50, folks. I'm 50. So MC, how are you?
I'm all right. I'm doing a little better. My voice probably still sounds a little weird, but as soon as we stopped recording 2 weeks ago now, whenever it was, like, my throat started feeling scratchy, and then since then I've been down for the count, but I'm back. I'm better now. I start a new job tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I've been trying really hard to be back to health, so I'm not meeting all my new coworkers and they're like, who's this new guy coughing over everyone?
And then your entire unit is sick.
Yep.
And congratulations, by the way.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome. That is
Thank
awesome. You. I know you're super excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you're the only one who's been taken out by whatever it is that's going around. I think Troy and Brad have been sick. Well, Brad, it was food poisoning, if you heard the new episode.
Yep.
And then I think Troy's had a lingering something or other.
This is the perfect time for me to ask.
Yeah.
When's the next episode of Not a Bomb Classics?
I don't know. I have no idea. You know what? We are able to schedule it now because my musical is done.
Yeah.
And I think there's some other issues that are clear, but yes, we want another one. And the other one is going to be It's Singing in the Rain.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait. I love that
love
movie.
me a musical, you know that. So, hey, Q and Alex, hot shot. So we open the show with a icebreaker. Who's your favorite Pope?
Yeah, whichever one is there now. He's a good guy.
Yeah, what's his name? I'm just kidding. So just to set the stage, I mean, anybody who's on here obviously has read, we are reviewing Conclave, which deals with what happens when a pope dies and what is the succession? How does that election process, wink, wink, how does that election process occur? And so that's what the Q and Alex joke question was kind of that.
Yeah.
But since the film is a little bit of a mystery thriller, maybe a little, not really a whodunit, but just like election intrigue and backstabbing with priests who knew. How about another Q and Alex question, which is, if you were in an escape room, if you don't know what an escape room is, find out, Google it, find out. It's fun. Who would you want your team to be with you in this room? And we're talking fictional characters.
Yeah. Like Sherlock Holmes obviously comes to mind. I think we'd get out of there pretty quickly. I gotta think Dora the Explorer. She has like a map that has all the essentials on it. She'll tell me where to go, what to do. Probably like Batman, Detective Batman. I think that would be nice.
Nice.
Probably round it out. We'll have Scooby-Doo coming along. He just seems to be lucky and find his way to finding out the mysteries and solving it. So Scooby-Doo.
Okay, you took a lot of my picks in some ways.
Nice.
Right? And so I'm just going to say this. I'm not going to pick Sherlock Holmes. I'm going to pick Watson because I'm pretty sure he's like, we'll just turn to him and be like, this is your time to shine, buddy. Show that you're not just an assistant. And then I think instead of Scooby-Doo, definitely Velma. Velma is my jam. She's the brains. So there you go. I might throw in, what is her name? I think it's Kay Scarpetta. She's like the medical examiner detective person. And then maybe Bosch, the police officer, the detective from the Michael Connelly novels.
Okay.
Yeah. And
sure.
And then I think Judge Dredd, because when all else fails, we'll just shoot our fucking way out of the escape room.
Nice. Have you done an escape room?
I have not. I think if I ever come out to visit you, we should find one.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I think that would be, I don't know. I imagine I would be incredibly annoying in that kind of scenario. So I'm eager to see if that holds true.
Nice. I've done like 4 or 5 of them, and sometimes they're really fun, but then other times you get, you get in an escape room that's like pretty janky. Like sometimes they have like, you touch this thing to this thing and it's like magnetized so it'll open a door, but then the door doesn't open and the worker has to come in and like finagle it and open it. Like that always ruins the experience. But
I mean, look, remember when we had Dungeons and Dragons, right? It was all imagination. Like you didn't need anybody to open a door for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that should be fun. All right, so we talked about the plus. That is a bonus review before we get into the movie review. Don't forget, folks, we got timestamps, so feel free to jump around. You don't want to hear us, yeah, and you just skip, right? Did you like that? Skip. Yeah.
Nice.
So what do you have for us in terms of your plus, MC?
Yes. Since I've been sick, I've been watching a lot of movies.
Ooh.
Specifically 10 movies, so I'm going to talk about them. And I'm curious your opinions on them.
I have to tell you, I have 4 movies to talk about. So here we go, folks. This is going to be like a maybe spoiler-free quickie for these movies. So let's do it.
Okay, so first off, the Kino Lorber just had a sale recently, and the Criterion like half-off sales going on. So I maybe splurged a little. I haven't bought movies this year, so I finally was like, I'm gonna buy some movies. Everything's like half off.
Got it.
So most of these come from this sale, but first off, I did Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, the Gary Oldman 2011 film. I got the Kino 4K. I really enjoyed that one. I watched Leon the Professional kind of recently.
Okay.
And that was the first time that I was like, oh, I get Gary Oldman now. And then since then, I've been like venturing into more Gary Oldman. So,
wait, I have to do it because my Evita director said this and nobody caught the reference. And then I posted the GIF in our little cast Facebook thread or whatever.
Okay.
But he was like, he asked the choreographer, how many people do you want on stage for Buenos Aires? And he goes, everyone. So do you remember that scene in The Professional where they were like,
no,
hey boss, who should we call down? And he turns around and he's like, everyone. Anyway, that's my Gary Oldman, everyone.
I love it.
Go it.
Yeah. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy was pretty good. And then I watched on Max Tampopo.
Tampopo.
Yes.
Oh my God. I love that.
Yeah. That's been on my watch list for a while. So we finally watched it. And it made me want ramen so bad.
Yes. By the way, if that's how you reacted, you definitely need to watch Jiro Dreams of Sushi. It's a documentary about this guy who's handing off his sushi business that he's been doing his entire life, but it'll make you want to eat all the sushis.
Nice. Yeah, Tampopo was great. After that, I watched The Italian Job, the 1969 version.
The Michael Caine, yeah.
Yeah, that was good. The ending I wasn't expecting, where they're like hanging off the cliff or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it just ends.
It's good.
It was pretty good.
Spoiler.
Yeah. Oops. And then it's from 1969.
I know. It's true.
And then I watched The Maltese Falcon on
Ooh.
4K. That was a rewatch. I'd seen it before, didn't remember anything about it, but pretty good.
Bogart.
Yeah. I rewatched The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo on Max, the Daniel Craig, David Fincher version. That movie, I remember the first time I watched it, at the end, Stellan Skarsgård says, people are sometimes more afraid to offend someone or make them uncomfortable than they are afraid of pain. He's like, you came to my house and knew this was going to happen. And that always stuck with me. And so I wanted to rewatch it and like see if I liked the movie as much. And I feel like I didn't really like the movie that much until it got to that scene and I like heard that line again and I was like, yeah, that's pretty true. Like, it's a fine movie, but it's so long, and the weird relationship between Daniel Craig and Rooney Mara is weird. And
yeah,
I don't know. It's fine.
I'm still recommending to you that you check out the Swedish trilogy of all three books with Noomi Rapace. So amazing.
Okay, I've been thinking about it ever since I saw Lamb that she was in.
Yeah.
I think that's the only thing I've seen with her.
She's an extraordinary actress. I love her. You saw Prometheus, did you not?
Oh my gosh, yeah, I did.
And the second Sherlock Holmes. She was in the second Sherlock Holmes too.
I didn't see the second one.
Book of Shadows or Game of Shadows?
I don't
Something
think I saw
Shadows.
that one.
Yeah.
First one's fun. Okay, and then I went through some of my criterion. So the broadcast news, I love that movie. I'm an Albert Brooks guy.
Holly Hunter is my inspiration for just being a chaotic mess at work. She's my favorite.
Yeah, she's awesome. I watched The Vanishing. I think I texted you about that one.
Yeah, the original Dutch one.
Yes, that ending was crazy. I wasn't expecting it, but very solid movie.
Did you not want to die? And then like every single film after that has ripped off that ending in some ways. But what's interesting is that the ending got turned into a full movie by Ryan Reynolds, the film Buried.
Oh.
So that was an interesting jump off point.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, let's not do that lead up and that ending. Let's just start.
Let's just do the ending.
Yeah. It's great. Spoiler.
And then I rewatched Kubrick's Paths of Glory.
Ooh.
That's a fun one. I don't know about fun, but it's a good movie.
I was about to say, like, all of the stuff you talked about is like heavy material.
Yeah, but they're all very good. Oh, speaking of heavy, I watched Harakiri.
Oh, yes.
That one's also pretty heavy.
Which one? The older one or the newest remake?
The old.
Okay.
Like from 1962 or something.
Yeah. So I would encourage you to see the remake too. They're all great. I love samurai movies.
Yeah, me too. And then last but not least, I watched the original The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. That was a rewatch, but I love like the grittiness of that movie, and I don't know, it's pretty nice. I like Robert Shaw. He's someone that, like, after I saw this for the first time, I was like, oh my gosh, he's the guy in Jaws. And so I hadn't rewatched Jaws in a long time, so then I rewatched Jaws and was like, oh, Jaws is incredible. And then oh my gosh, what else was he in? What's another Robert Shaw
movie?
movie?
The Lay of the Land. He was in the war movie, right? Like, was it Force 10 from Navarone, or maybe it was?
I didn't see that.
Where Eagles Dare to Tread. I don't know. Robert Shaw.
Oh, The Sting.
Not a war movie.
No, not a war movie. That was the one that I was thinking of.
I think the legend goes he was a notorious drinker and very difficult to work with. In fact, they made the play. I forget what the play was called. Like, I don't know. We Need a Bigger Boat. It's not called that, but there was a play that was made about the making of that. I don't know. Maybe it's called like We Are the Shark, or I don't know. I have no idea what it's called, but apparently it was very, very good. An actor I adore played Richard Dreyfuss. He originated Beetlejuice on Broadway. So if you know who I'm talking about, that's great. You can sit with me, but I'm drawing a blank in my mind right now as Alex coughs.
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah, Robert Shaw, Taking of Pelham. It's Walter Matthau, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Who, he's popular for like what, The Odd Couple, and then you see him in this film and you're like, wow. 70s Cinema Man, my favorite. My favorite. I would skip that remake.
Yes, I have seen it before.
I know some people are like, it wasn't so bad, but quite honestly, like Travolta. I'll stop.
Yeah, that was it. That was it for my plus. Those were my 10 movies. So
that's really good.
Yeah, even though I was sick, I liked every single one of the movies I watched. So it was pretty nice.
It's funny that we are simpatico like this, because I'm going to do the same thing. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4 movies, and I will pray to be short-winded, or short-worded, whatever the phrase is. I saw Heretic. This was written by Scott Beck and Brian Woods. Many of you will know that they were the writers behind the Quiet Place trilogy. Okay, there's some prestige there, right? They're also responsible for low-budget thrillers like Nightlight and Haunt. Haunt has been on my queue for the better part of like 5 years, it feels like, and I have yet to watch it. Recently, they did The Boogeyman, which actually got some really good buzz, and the big budget bomb 65. They wrote that movie with Adam Driver. Absolute poop. So this one stars Hugh Grant and then a gorgeous and luminous Sophie Thatcher. If you have not seen her before, I don't know. I was entranced. I couldn't take my eyes off of her. And then a young lady named Chloe East. The logline goes, 2 young religious women are drawn into a game of cat and mouse in the house of a strange man. I think it's best to go in blind, because if you look at the trailer for this, it's going to essentially ruin everything. And it will become a game of, what are we waiting for? When is this thing going to ramp up? And so I had seen the trailer. I tried to forget it. I got in here. I watched it. And I'm just going to say this. It's effectively set up. Clearly well researched. The Hugh Grant character is a little bit of a religious nut. And so the women are Mormon missionaries. And there's a lot of this, well, what about God? And what about this religion? And there is an analogy to world religions that I am pretty sure is going to offend a ton of people. But it's a clever analogy, if not slightly offensive. But I gotta say, the punchline was not worth the joke. And I don't mean to undermine the writing here by saying joke, but you get what I mean. When this thing finally ends and the reveal happens, it feels like a wet fart. Do we say that a lot? We say that a lot on our show. Yeah. It feels a little bit like a wet fart. And again, I'm not gonna spoil it, but the ending, because of the recent election, really left a terrible aftertaste in my mouth. Hugh Grant is Trump in this film. Anyway, but again, the setup is really good. The production design by Philip Messina is fantastic. He was the PD for films like The Hunger Games and Aronofsky's Mother. And there's a lot going on in the production design that makes you feel uncomfortable and like, it's weird. There's almost like a skewed sort of perspective or vision with the lines that they were drawing in the set. It's really, really well done. Also, the photography by, Chung Hoon Chung. He is the celebrated Korean cinematographer who works with director Park Chan-wook. So he has shot Old Boy, Thirst, Lady Vengeance, Stoker. He was the DP behind It, Last Night in Soho, and the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. So the movie is shot like amazingly well. But I don't know. I kind of felt like the writers were high on their own supply. We end up getting this like Saw-like scenario mixed in with religious mysticism, and then it turns into this whole like Knives Out. Well, here's what you really saw, and eventually I was just like, "What the fuck are we watching?" Yeah. So that kind of, unfortunately, you know. It's going to be a marginal sliver watch because I think mileage will vary. I think some people will really, really like this. Like I said, it's shot really well. Everybody's really great in this. I think Hugh Grant, unfortunately, mugs a little too much. So the way I felt about his performance here, because a lot of people were like, "Oh, Hugh Grant, he's so amazing. He's so menacing," or whatever. I felt it was a lot like Leonardo DiCaprio's performance in Django Unchained. That there was a lot of this like, whoa, like mugging, like yeah, with all the whatever. So anyway, the other film I saw was a film called Weekend in Taipei. I had not heard about this until I walked by the poster. It is directed by George Huang, who recently has written films like Hard Target 2 and How to Make a Monster. Yeah, I don't think people have seen that, but I will remind you that Huang is behind the excellent Swimming with Sharks. That is a 1994 film starring Frank Whaley and one Kevin Spacey. Now, Huang has been sort of like in and out of television directing and like writing these direct-to-video action stuff. But where this comes in, what Weekend in Taipei is interesting for is it's written by Luc Besson. So bringing it back to Leon the Professional. And so Besson often writes these great movies and directs these great visual movies that sometimes fall flat with their narrative. So, I've got Fifth Element, I've got Valerian, things like that, Leon, Nikita. But then there's these side projects that he's done that are just kind of like this weird connected Assassin's Universe films that are just kind of underwhelming and maybe a little misogynistic because their female characters are either crack addicts or they're PTSD trauma survivors, but they're, of course, violent avenging angels. So, I'm looking at Lucy, 3 Days to Kill, Columbiana, the Transporter sequels, the recent Anna, which is a horrible film, but I fucking enjoyed out of my mind. I've seen that movie like 10 times. I love Anna. So the logline for this goes: a former DEA agent and a former undercover operative. A lot of espionage going on here. Revisit their romance during a fateful weekend in Taipei, unaware of the dangerous consequences of their past. So this stars Luke Evans and Sung Kang, who, curiously enough, both of them were in the Fast and Furious franchise. And let me tell you, there are scenes in here that are very fast, very furious, involve cars. So it's very odd that they put them in there. And while the action scenes are extremely well done, they're kind of few and far between, much like those other Luc Besson wet fart movies that I had mentioned. And this one's a little weird because maybe Besson is getting softer because this actually involves a family. Yes, you heard that right. A family that sort of Fast and Furious is together and does the action together. Sadly, this is really weak. I think it's one level above a shitty direct-to-video movie or those midnight Cinemax B films that I kind of grew up loving. And oddly enough, after watching this, I kind of want Luke Evans to be the new James Bond. And I'll leave that where it is. Also, Sung Kang should never play a villain. I think my voice is high-pitched and screechy. Wait till you see him get angry on camera. Really terrible.
What made you watch this? Was it the
Luke
poster?
Evans.
Okay.
Luke Evans. So here's the thing. Luke Evans, great actor. He can sing, he can dance, he's gorgeous, he's Welsh, and he's an openly gay male. IMDb his resume, he's getting roles no other gay man I know gets. Like action roles where he's having romances with women, he's banging women. In Anna, he's like banging her like everywhere, every time they meet. And he's openly gay. So it's odd, and I love it. I think it's fantastic that he's getting these roles. Okay, speaking of diversions, the third film I saw is something called Elevation. This is a 90-minute, low-budget, apocalyptic creature movie. Think A Quiet Place, but instead of monsters that react to sound, these are monsters that react to, hold on for this, CO2 emissions from human beings, and
Okay.
they cannot go above 8,000 feet, hence elevation, the title. So if that sounds like just, hey, let's take A Quiet Place and rejigger it, yeah, a lot of this sounds really, really borrowed. And here's the log line. A single father and two women venture from the safety of their homes to face monstrous creatures to save the life of a young boy. So basically his son, since the world ended, and this is the first time I've ever seen a sci-fi thriller do an audio prologue. So as the titles are going by, you're hearing all these things. The creatures have come out of the sinkhole. They're eating humans. We don't know who they are. And then literally the title card says 3 years later. I've never seen that. I guess they didn't have enough money to put together a digital scrawl or fake news scrawl or something. But anyway, if the concept sounds borrowed, a lot of this is very borrowed. We've got sort of action scenarios. Oh no, we can't go below 8,000 feet. We have to run now, and we're at 7,500 and we got to climb. Yeah, a lot of this sounds borrowed. Some of it, though, is rather creative, and the ending, the third act and the reveal kind of set up a sequel that I now want to see, even though everything is illogical. Everything is terrible. We get the whole, like, at one point something explodes and it explodes directionally. And it's like, that's not how that works. Everybody would be obliterated, right? So this is actually from a gentleman named George Nolfi. He wrote the screenplays for Timeline, Ocean's 12, Bourne Ultimatum, Adjustment Bureau. So some good street cred there, I guess, right? But he's the director. The writers are John Glenn, Jacob Roman, and Kenny Ryan. They worked primarily on episodic television. So we're looking at SEAL Team, a canceled show called Allegiance, and then the Hatfield and McCoys, which was actually pretty damn good. It was a History Channel miniseries with Kevin Costner. Excuse me. So this stars Anthony Mackie, Morena Baccarin. They're all really, really solid in this. I love Baccarin. She is a great actress. Many know her as Mrs. Deadpool, but she was also in shows like Homeland, the reboot of V. She's really good in this as this like saucy, aggressive, like scientist researcher who basically solves everything, and yet she's been living in the mountains for 3 years with no scientific equipment. Again, none of this makes sense, but it's actually a really good 90-minute diversion, and I kind of want to see the sequels. So think like Skyline. If you know about the Skyline series, Skyline 2, Beyond Skyline, or whatever, they're really good low-budget sci-fi. Check out Skyline. And then the other film that I'm going to talk about. Yeah, go ahead.
Real quick, this did have an $18 million budget, made $2.2 million. So I'm not entirely certain it'll get the sequel that you are hoping for.
Probably not, but there was definitely a weird limited release. Like, it's not really playing in a lot of things. And what's really odd, too, is that a lot of this feels a little bit like, hey, kids, let's make... I'm sorry, I don't mean to be so cynical. Hey, kids, let's make a movie, because Baccarin, Mackie, the writers, the directors, they're also co-EPs, producers, you know. Yeah, so they had a creative hand in this. And because of that, I think I want to kind of reward them. So even though this is a marginal watch, try to see it where you can, get on VOD, make it a success. I'd really like to see this either as a sequel series, maybe, because, you know, they write episodic television, or maybe even just as low budget sequels for Netflix. Why not? And segueing to Netflix, that's my fourth movie. I'm not going to say a lot about this, but there is a film that just landed on there called Emilia Perez. And this actually stars Zoe Saldana. Yes, that's Zoe Saldana. And Selena Gomez. And then there is a transgender actress who I did not write down, but I'm going to Google right now, who stars in this, Carla Sofia Gazon. And this is a film that caused a sensation at the Cannes Film Festival. It won the jury prize. It also won Best Actress, and I believe that was for Carla Sofia Gazon for her lead role here. And here is the logline. Emilia Perez follows 4 remarkable women in Mexico, each pursuing their own happiness. Cartel leader Emilia enlists Rita, an unappreciated lawyer, to fake her death so that she can finally live authentically as her true self. So essentially, a male cartel leader turns into a woman or transitions to a woman. But what's amazing about this film, in addition to the fact that it's directed by Jacques Audiard, who I absolutely love, he's directed films like Rust and Bone, The Beat That My Heart Skipped, and then A Prophet, all very, very amazing films. It's a musical. You heard that right, folks. It is a musical, and I was just stunned by this. I know some people, bless you, Scooter, he sneezed. I know that some people are gonna watch this and they're gonna be like, oh my god, people are singing. Why are they singing when I should be talking dialogue? But it's so good and out of the box. You guys just need to get it in your eyes quickly. And Zoe Saldana, man, the girl can dance and sing. I'm ready to. Well, she was in center stage, actually, so we know she can dance and stuff. So I want to see her in a musical. Yeah. So that's my plus.
Cool.
You've got to, everybody has to check out some of these movies. Maybe not Heretic and Weekend Taipei, but
Yeah, we were supposed to cover Heretic last week.
we were. And actually, based on its wet fart status, I'm kind of glad that we didn't. But what's funny is it has religious overtones, as does our movie. And so we're going to start. We've got Conclave.
Yes.
And I'm going to start with a little below the line, and then MC is going to do the cast. So I've got Edward Berger. He's our director. If you want to know more about him, just check out episode 13 of Watch Skip Plus, because he was the director of All Quiet on the Western Front. As many know, that was a Netflix exclusive streamer, but it went on to win the Academy Award for Best International Film. Berger has also directed movies and television shows like Jack, as well as Patrick Melrose, starring Benedict Cumberbatch, Sherlock. See, it's all coming around. And then recently, Your Honor, starring Bryan Cranston. You should know that he is German-born, and he finished his film school education here in the U.S. at the Tisch School of Arts in New York City. This is based on a novel by Robert Harris. Harris has written a bunch of novels that have become films. So I'm looking at his 1992 Fatherland, which became a television film that was set in a futuristic world where the Nazis actually won World War II. His other novels, Enigma, Archangel, Ghostwriter, they've also been turned into films as well. And he's collaborated with Roman Polanski and made his own books into films and series. So I'm looking at The Ghostwriter, An Officer and a Spy, and then recently Sky did an adaptation of his book, The Fear Index, starring Josh Hartnett, who we also reviewed in Trap, which, by the way, is streaming on Max, so check it out and then listen to our episode, because I actually kind of liked it. Our screenplay is by Peter Strawn. He is a British playwright and screenwriter. Strangely, he wanted to be a musician and was in a band called the Honest Johns, and he actually toured with them for 4 years, playing the bass guitar. And then he studied education at Newcastle University, where he was also in a band. He has also written films like How to Lose Friends and Alienate People, The Men Who Stare at Goats, Frank with Michael Fassbender. If you've ever seen this, it's about a musician who wears like this big cartoon head. And
Oh, yeah.
very weird. He's also adapted the celebrated novels The Snowman and The Goldfinch, and wrote the screenplay for something called Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Interesting.
It all comes around, okay? And then our music is by Volker Bertelmann. Again, if you want to hear more about him, you can certainly listen to our episode, because he scored All Quiet on the Western Front. The one thing we didn't cover about him, though, was he is apparently a former rapper. Under the name Hauchka, he performed in actually with his cousin in the 90s, and then they split in 95. The first official release was Substantial in 2004. But since then, Bertelmann has been doing a lot of experimental albums where he sort of funnels the power of music through classical instruments, but crosses genres with his improvisational scores and compositions. Very interesting gentleman.
Cool.
Our DP is Stefan Fontaine. He's a French DP. He was educated at École Nationale Supérieure Louis Lumière, graduating in 1985. And he has served as the first camera assistant for notable directors like Arnaud Desplechin, Jim Jarmusch, Leos Carax, and Olivier Assayas. And in my plus, I mentioned director Jacques Audiard. Well, he's shot almost all of Audiard's films and, in fact, won a César, that is the French Oscar, for his cinematography in Audiard's The Beat That My Heart Skipped and A Prophet. He has also lensed other films like Captain Fantastic, which starred Viggo Mortensen, and a very early role by George McKay, who is an excellent young actor. Also, Viggo is fully frontally nude in it, if that's your thing. Verhoeven's Elle, and then a film, he shot a film called The Kill Team in 2019. Have you ever seen this?
No.
It's based on the Maiwand district murders, which is, it basically centered around 3 thrill killings of Afghani citizens by a group of U.S. soldiers during the Afghanistan war. And so that was a movie that was released in 2019. It stars Alex Skarsgård, and I want to say one of the twin brothers,
Nat Wolff.
Yes. One of them, so one of the twins was in Hereditary, and then the other was in like Paper Towns, but I can never get them.
This one was in Paper Towns.
Okay.
Alex Wolff, that's in Hereditary, was also in Pig.
Yes. Yeah. And
I like him.
Nat is the better looking twin.
Okay. Interesting.
I mean, I'm just saying. Okay. On to you with the cast.
On to me with the cast and on to our game, Cast Grab.
I seem to be the only contestant on Cast Grab, by the way, because you either get
I haven't done it yet.
Or we do an indie where nobody knows the people.
Yep. I can't wait. So, you're going to have 10 seconds to name as many things that this actor has been in. So I'm going to name an actor. You got 10 seconds. Name all the things you can.
Okay, here we go.
We're going to start off with the one and the only Stanley Tucci.
The Pelican Brief, Devil Wears Prada, Frankie and Johnny, Opening Night. I don't know.
Okay, that's time.
He was in Frankie and Johnny on Broadway, not the actual movie itself.
Okay, I'll count it then.
Yes!
And then you said Opening Night?
Yeah, I think I got that wrong.
Is it Big Night? Is that what you mean?
Fuckles. I meant Big Night. Shit.
Dang.
I don't think that counts though. I got the title wrong.
I'll give you 3 points for that one.
Okay.
The Tooch Man, he's an Italian-American actor from Peekskill, New York. He made his film debut in John Huston's Prizzi's Honor and continued with supporting roles with Tom Hanks for some reason in Road to Perdition and The Terminal. And following his roles with Tom Hanks, he then collaborated with Meryl Streep in The Devil Wears Prada and Julie and Julia. And he was nominated for the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor in The Lovely Bones in 2009.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Wasn't he the abuser though? Anyway.
Yeah, he was a bad dude in that.
Yeah.
He's appeared in Burlesque, Easy A, all of the Hunger Games movies, Spotlight. He also hosted the CNN food and travel series titled Stanley Tucci Searching for Italy, for which he won. Amazing. Yeah, he won 2 Emmy Awards for it. And he's also been nominated for a Tony in Frankie and Johnny and a Grammy for narrating the one and only Shrek in 2008. So
wet fart. Just kidding.
That's the Tucci, man.
People love Shrek. It's all good. I love Stanley Tucci. Like, not only is he just gorgeous, but he just seems like somebody you'd want to hang out with, right? And just like talk shit. I mean, listen, if Tom Hanks loves him,
yeah, that's what I think of Easy A for some reason, because he plays Emma Stone's like cool dad.
Yeah,
I'm like, totally. Yeah, like I want to be friends with someone that has him as a dad. Like that's my interaction with him.
Absolutely. And I can't believe as like a flaming homosexual. I forgot he was in Burlesque because I've seen that movie a million times. Cher was in it, and Christina Aguilera. Like,
Yeah.
really.
Okay, moving on to the next person. We're gonna do John Lithgow.
Oh shit! The World According to Garp, Twilight Zone, Raising Cain, Terms of Endearment? Question mark.
Yeah. That's time. That's time. John Lithgow, if anyone was born to be an actor, it's probably him. He is the son of a stage actress and a theater producer and director.
It's in his genes.
It really
It's in his
is.
genes.
He was nominated for the Oscars for Best Supporting Actors in back-to-back years, 83 and 84, with The World According to Garp and Terms of Endearment. He has over 100 acting credits, so I'm going to shout out some of my favorites. Brian De Palma's Blowout.
Oh, yes.
Awesome.
I can't believe I forgot that.
The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai. 2010, The Year We Make Contact.
Yes.
He's the grandpa in Interstellar. He was recently Winston Churchill in The Crown. And obviously, icon, Lord Farquaad in Shrek.
Oh, Shrek. It all goes
You don't
back
like
to
Shrek?
I'm not. So it became, I guess my diversion point will be if a movie becomes a musical. Because then I'm like, okay, you're really going to need to sell me that there's something different to the musical than there is from the movie. And so Shrek the musical, like, all my friends were in it, and I'm not downing it, but it turned me off to Shrek.
Gotcha. Well,
sorry.
Shrek 2, pure cinema.
No.
Pure cinema.
No.
Anyways, okay, moving on. We're going to do some film royalty. We have Isabella Rossellini.
Jesus, Blue Velvet, cat person with my future husband Nick Braun.
Yeah.
She was on 30 Rock.
That's time.
Yeah.
Almost all of these people, I did realize, almost all these people were on 30 Rock, which is interesting.
It's true. And they've all had these weird, like, dipping down in regular performances and then a resurgence of they're now in everything.
Yep. So Isabella, she's the daughter of Swedish actress Ingrid Bergman and Italian director Roberto Rossellini. She has also been married to Martin Scorsese. She was partners with David Lynch, and she dated Gary Oldman.
Everyone!
It's all coming back.
This is crazy.
I know. So
we should play the lottery.
Let's do it. Let's stop the recording right now and go get some lotto tickets. She is an actress and model who holds dual Italian and American citizenship. She's known for being in David Lynch's Blue Velvet and Wild at Heart. Death Becomes Her in 1992.
Yeah.
She worked with Jeff Bridges in 1993's Fearless. And more recently, Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, Jose's favorite cat person.
Did you watch it yet?
No, I haven't.
Oh my God, please do so. And watch it with Alexis. I think it'll be a good conversation starter for you guys.
Okay. And she recently narrated Problemista. Did you see that?
That's right. Oh, yes.
Is that one worth checking out? Yeah.
What's that?
Is Problemista worth checking out?
Hells yeah. It's also streaming on Max now. So, in addition to the actor who wrote and starred in Problemista, he has like a comedy series that is on Max as well, and it's pretty brilliant and out there.
Awesome. Okay, you have 10 points currently.
Wow.
You got 10 seconds to tell me all you can about Ralph Fiennes.
End of the Affair, The English Patient, Red Dragon, A Bigger Splash, Harry Potter series.
Yes.
All of them.
That's it. You get 1 point.
Do I win by saying all of them? No. We talked about the fact that you can't do every sequel.
No, but you got 5 there. I'm impressed. Good job. Okay. So, Ralph Fiennes as Cardinal Lorenz.
I like Lorenz. I like that.
This is me referencing his character in Hail Caesar.
Oh my God, you are correct.
Yeah. So
what did
it twa? So simple. Fiennes is an English actor, producer, and director. He graduated from the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art in 1985. He enjoyed success as a Shakespeare interpreter for the Royal Shakespeare Company.
Dang.
His film debut was in 1992 in the Wuthering Heights adaptation, and that was just 1 year before his role in Spielberg's Schindler's List, for which he received a nomination for Best Supporting Actor and won the Best Supporting Actor BAFTA. He followed that up with Robert Redford's Quiz Show in 1994.
Oh, yeah.
And Catherine Bigelow's Strange Days in 1995, before he received yet another Oscar nomination, this time for Best Actor for The English Patient.
Did you see that movie?
I have not.
Oh. So obviously there is the famous Seinfeld episode where everybody's like, oh, you have to see The English Patient. But it really is good. Weaves a magical spell on you. It's wonderful.
Great. I'll check it out. Fiennes also has been in a ton of franchises. So you said Harry Potter, and you mentioned Red Dragon. So he's in the Hannibal Lecter series.
Yeah, man.
He's in the Daniel Craig James Bond series. He was recently in The King's Man. So he's in that Matthew Vaughn series. So many things.
Yeah.
He's also been in films like Made in Manhattan, In Bruges, which is incredible, The Grand Budapest Hotel, and recently The Menu.
Yes. And I have to tell you that when he cropped up in Made in Manhattan with like Jennifer Lopez, I was like, oh man, he's paying the rent. Although,
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I think that movie was directed by Wayne Wang?
No idea.
So, Wang has some prestige. Can't believe I just said that. The Wang has prestige, folks. And by the way, let's just settle this. Ralph is the way his name is spelled, but Rafe is a male name of English origin derived from Ye Old English for Radwolf, the Old High German, or the cognate Ralfur, the Old Norse. And so Rafe or Rafe is really how it's pronounced. I think we fucked it up by being like Ralph.
Ralph Fiennes.
Yes, exactly.
Well, even how his last name is spelled, like you could say Ralph Fiennes or something like that. Yeah.
Fiennes.
But that was all I had on the cast. There's a few other people I wasn't very familiar with, but outside of that, this is mostly Rafe's show.
It is mostly Rafe's show. Absolutely. And so I'm the showrunner, meaning I opened. So our spoiler-free thoughts. MC, I am dying because I actually saw this. I'm about a week and a half out from this, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm dying to hear what you thought about this.
Okay, before I go into my spoiler-free thoughts, I'm doing my log line.
Which I always forget.
That's fine. So, Conclave. A bunch of old men get locked up together as they try to figure out which one of them has the least amount of reasons why they shouldn't be the next pope.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Okay, my non-spoiler summary.
Did you say non-spoiler?
Yeah. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. You texted me and told me how you felt about it. So I was like, okay, let's just cover that. I wanted to see it anyways. Let's go see it.
What was the text, by the way?
I don't freaking know. You said it was really good or something. We'll get there.
I think there was a holy fuck in there. Is what that was.
There was.
Anyway.
So, I do think this is a really good movie. I had a good time. I'm not sure it's great. Personally, when I left the theater, I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. I had a great time. And as time has gone on and I've sat with it more, it hasn't left much of an impact.
Okay.
My opinion's kind of gotten weaker on it. So, it starts out really strong for me. It was kind of like a Ingmar Bergman movie where there's a priest who's losing his faith and he's tasked with finding the next pope. That's fascinating. Like, I thought that was so cool. In addition to that, we have like the death of the pope and the cardinals' interactions in that first scene where they're like, Cardinal Lawrence, who's Ralph Fiennes, he's like, why didn't anyone tell me? And John Lithgow's like, oh, well, you know how rumor spreads. I wanted to get all the information set up. And I was like, this guy's up to something.
Yeah.
And so I was like in immediately. And I was like, did someone kill the Pope? I thought that was maybe going to be part of a mystery. But all of that stuff that I was interested in kind of becomes inconsequential, and it turns into people spreading rumors, and they're all playing a big game. And instead of the Cardinal Lawrence being more and more paranoid and desperate to make the right decision, he loses the plot and starts to play the game himself. And I did enjoy his arc. I thought it was interesting how he goes from like challenging his faith and wanting to make a good decision for humanity, and instead ambition takes over. And I think this movie is about like nobody's immune to ambition. But I think once it kind of made that change for him, it was kind of to the detriment of the rest of the movie. So I say that because I never really felt like there were any stakes. We don't really get to see like how different it would be if any of these people take over as the Pope. Like, I know one of them's more conservative. He hates gay people. One of them hates anyone who's liberal. Like, there's all of that stuff, but we don't really see why it's so important that it's one of them instead of the other. Like, the stakes were never really made clear to me. The tagline for this movie on the poster, it says, "What happens behind these walls will change everything." I feel like that's the most that they told us about the stakes. Is like, just on the poster it says that, and that's all we know. Instead of it getting like more intense and the mystery or drama adding into it, it just started getting like kind of goofy, I guess, where I'm like, okay, they're all gonna like talk shit about each other. Nobody, like, by the end of it, I don't want any of them to become Pope. I guess the one guy who we'll talk about later, like, there's one person I'm like, yeah, I don't know a lot about him. No one knows a lot about him. So, like, let's just make this guy the Pope. But the problem with that is, like, all these people are so power hungry. And then the person that ends up becoming the Pope, I can't see how any of these characters would actually vote for that person, because they don't freaking know him. They don't know anything about him. That might be a spoiler, I don't know, but like the decisions made at the end of the movie, I was like, I don't think that's realistic or would happen. And at the end of the day, we have the final Pope choice or whatever. And I don't see how it's any different than if at the beginning of the movie they were like, okay, random number generator, let's spin it, and this person's now the Pope. It'd be the same thing.
Let's roll the dice. Oops.
Yeah.
Dice.
But it was good. I had fun. Like, in the moment, I was very into everything that was happening. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want John Lithgow to be the Pope. Like, this guy freaking sucks. And then you find out more and more about him, and I'm like, Jesus, someone's got to stop this man. And like, you find out more about all the other characters, and it gets to the point where it's like, I didn't know who to be the Pope. I didn't really care who should be the Pope. And I don't know. It's fine. I liked it. Ralph Fiennes is great. The opening scene where he's like crying when the Pope dies. Oh my gosh. That was incredible. And I also like the end scene where he's talking to the final Pope, and his like, he turns from like acceptance, like he's very stressed out, and like he still feels like he has to change everything and he has to be in charge, and then he just like, it just all kind of melts away, and he's just like, you know what, fine, like this is what we're doing. I liked how his emotions like changed quickly, and like I could see it actually melt away. I didn't like Stanley Tucci in this. There were two specific scenes where I think is probably the direction, but one scene near the beginning, everyone is like very calm, and he's like, he says one line just like very dialed up, like
Yeah.
aggressively, and I'm like, what the heck? Like that was weird. And then at the end of the movie, the opposite happened. Like there's a bunch of people yelling and screaming, and then he's like, it's almost like he just read a line from a piece of paper, and I was like, what the fuck just happened?
Choices were made.
Yeah, but outside of that, like I liked his character's role in this. He's like, oh, I don't want to be Pope, but if I were the Pope, here's what I would do. And then once someone else is trying to be the Pope, he's just like, what the fuck? I'm trying to be the Pope, dude. So I don't know. I liked that. John Lithgow's Weasley character was pretty good. Like I said, I immediately was like, fuck this guy. I don't trust him. And I don't know. You could tell he was like trying to be like, oh, this innocent old man. And inside he was like, I want to be the man. Isabella Rossellini, actually I guess not every woman in this, because there's not very many, but they feel a bit wasted. Like this wouldn't pass whatever that test is, where it's like you have to have two women in your movie. Do they talk together? Do they talk to each other? And do they talk about something that's not the main male character? This movie does not pass that, but it's a movie about a bunch of men trying to pick the next pope. So, like I can't really say that was like a choice they made. It was like, we hate women, let's not have them in here. But I don't know. It's still, I don't know. I felt like Isabella Rossellini could have been used a little better, but I also like the calm and powerful demeanor of the Carlos Diaz character, or the actor. I don't remember what his cardinal's name is, but yeah, I liked him in this. So that's about it.
Is it a watch?
Yeah, it's a watch. It was still, it was really good, but I wouldn't say great. I think I gave it like 3.5 or 4 stars.
Okay.
And a like. So
yeah,
I'd watch it again. I don't know if the movie that I always think of for something like this is Spotlight. I guess Stanley Tucci is in that too, but I really love Spotlight, and I don't think this lives up to that for me. But I would still rewatch this. So
it's weird that you say it reminded you of I guess of Spotlight in some ways. What for me, what was weird is I was reminded of like 12 Angry Men.
So
in some ways,
I saw in Letterboxd one of the top reviews. Someone said it's 12 Angry Men meets Gossip Girl.
Yeah.
And to me, I see the Gossip Girl. I don't see the 12 Angry Men, because in 12 Angry Men, like, and it's part of the way that movie's shot too, where like the shots get closer and closer into all of the people, and like you do feel the stakes as the movie goes on and the tension, and I didn't quite feel that in this.
Okay. We are going to talk about the twist, obviously.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure, I haven't read any reviews, but I'm pretty sure people are going to say, this is why woke Hollywood sucks. Okay. What is your response to those people who feel that however this film shakes out, right, even though ostensibly it's about like religion and finding a new pope, that it's too woke in its resolution? Do you have a response?
I wouldn't say that. I mean, first off, it's based on a book from 2016, I think. So, like, it's not like, I assume they're not just doing this for the movie. Like, the twist isn't just like something they're doing for a movie to be woke. Also, I do think I could see it where people who are against the twist might, like, who are politically against the twist, might be like, well, they all kind of fucked up anyways. Like, all of the popes sucked. All the cardinals sucked. Their method of determining the new pope was all like shady and childish. Like, they get what they deserve. Like, I don't know. They should have looked into it more or asked him more questions. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think it's too woke. I think people who say that are just looking for something to complain about.
Excellent. Very good response. The other thing I was going to say was, you know how I often talk about how the beginning always, shows you exactly what you need to see? That
Yeah.
did not come to fruition here. However, there is a closing image. Do you remember this?
Was it someone standing outside, or was it the door closing? Or
yeah, we'll get to that in the spoiler section, because I think if I talk about it now, it's going to be a little weird. So anyway, but my spoiler free thoughts on this. So it's funny that the Letterboxd person said 12 Angry Men meets Gossip Girl. I'm Filipino, and I don't know if it's a cultural stereotype, but like, we're kind of gossipy bitches. And so, much like you, I was absolutely compelled by this. Like, I just immediately was like, what the fuck's going to happen now? I grew up Catholic. I had Sunday school, catechism, all of that. I'm probably a lapsed Catholic or Reformed Catholic in some ways. Still call myself spiritual, but I had no idea that this is, I know that there had been news when the Pope died, and that this is what they do, and there's the smoke signs and things like that. But I didn't realize, and maybe it's not true, but just the idea of all them being locked together until they figure out who, I thought that was a really, really compelling idea for a film. This is very talky. I'm not surprised that both the writer and the screenwriter have written plays before, and that they love plays. This is built for the stage. I mean, it really is a lot of talk, and I guess that's where the gossip sort of stuff comes from, we're not going to get, I don't know, witness testimonials or parish testimonials. We sort of have to accept what's said about these other cardinals. But I think not only is the compelling idea a strength of the film, but you honed in on it. Like, this is about the way that I see this film is that it's obviously very layered, and I think we'll get into the other layer politically and what it says about society more in the spoiler section. But I think the first layer of this is obviously it's a crackling good mystery, and you're right, I thought it was going to be about like somebody killed the Pope, but it's not. And then when you realize it's not about that, and then it becomes this sort of like gossipy thing, like who has the best character, right? And who, even if we're talking about the fact that priests and cardinals are still human beings, even though they've pledged their life, to God and to the Bible and doing all of this stuff, they're just human beings to begin with. And so they are fallible to things like influence, screwing around and getting people pregnant, that kind of thing or whatever. And so, on that level, as this sort of like character study and who's it going to be, that's great. I loved it. The second level is obviously this examination of organized religion, right? But more importantly, how even organized religion, which purports to be like, hey, we're closer to God, therefore we're better than you are, right? What I think was really strong about this story is that even that institution is not bulletproof from things like people wanting power, or people wanting the name only, or people, just being greedy and manipulating things so that they can get to the top. And then the third layer of this obviously there is definitely a political, I would say, undercurrent. I wouldn't say it's completely its message. And again, we're going to get to that in the spoiler section, because yes, you are right. There is, obviously there's these conservative cardinals, and then there's a more liberal cardinal, and we're talking about gay people, and we're talking about, pregnancies and abortions, although they didn't really talk about that in the context of organized religion, but it is a plot point in some ways. But I don't think that's this movie's message. There, to begin with, in the beginning as well, there's a lot of imagery that I was just kind of like, why are they showing us these things? Why do we need to see them sitting around drinking wine and coffee, sitting in a cafeteria, looking on their cell phones? What is
Cigarettes.
this? And that was these people are still human, right? So even though they're here for an important thing, they love to gossip. They're on their cell phones all the time. You know what I mean? They're making shady phone calls when they shouldn't. And it just bolstered that whole fact, like, no institution is immune from, greed and avarice and these sort of original sins that we have, right? Everybody wants power. Everybody wants to be able to dictate stuff or whatever. But it's interesting that you felt that way about the women roles here, because I think that the women's roles had an important aspect in this, because it's happening in the modern world where we now have technology, we now have communication, and the women are having a stronger role and a stronger interaction with the men of this religious hierarchy. So I don't know, all of this to say that I could see all the different levels, like almost Inception-like, that they were trying to go for, I think, in this. And I think there's different ways that you can interpret this film, but it is just mesmerizing. And I want Ralph Fiennes to win an Oscar. I think he's great. All of the actors are amazing. I think there are themes here that we go through, like, that are Shakespearean in some ways, like greatness thrust upon you versus, you know what? I don't want to be number one, but I kind of want to be number two, and I want to influence things or things like that. And the nature of responsibility, and what does it mean to have this huge position and influence over the globe, right? So on all those different levels, I just thought this was fantastic. And I think everybody should see it because it's a good conversation starter. And I think that ending is not what people think it is. It is not some woke message. I think Berger has more in mind about that, and especially that closing image that we're going to talk about. So it's a super watch for me. Shamefully, I don't think it's really playing a lot of places. I think like Heretic, it's getting like those regional releases, but look for that to expand if things start to ramp up with like the Critics Society and nominations and things like that.
Yeah.
I really do hope it gets a writing nod, an acting nod, a directing nod, and the music too. I'm ready to download the soundtrack. So that's me.
Nice.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Anything else?
No, I think everything else I have is spoilers.
Okay.
Section.
And one other note, actually 2 other notes. Going back to my plus, I forgot to mention this. In the film Elevation, remember how I said that the writers were from SEAL Team? There was an actor who was in there very briefly, Tyler Gray. He is also in SEAL Team, but you'll notice that he's a disabled veteran. Like, his arm is presumably injured in a IED explosion or something. But he's in that film, and the co-stunt coordinator is a gentleman named Nick Brandon. Nick is a ginormous redhead, and he is a stunt person who trained with the Jackie Chan stunt team. So Troy's going to love this. You can actually see him in 3 notable films. Armor of God. He's actually one of the soldiers in Armor of God. If you've ever seen Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, he's one of the soldiers, the Navy soldiers in the beginning that try to beat up Bruce Lee. And then recently was it called Plane? I think, with Gerard Butler.
I think so.
Yeah, that's like a throwback to like action films. There's a home video of why he gets tossed off as being like a commercial pilot because he beat up somebody on a plane. The guy that he beats up is Nick Brandon. So all of this to say, the reason why I know Nick Brandon is because he was the coordinator for wasn't stupid. I'm sorry. Nick was great. The show was just ridiculous, but he stunt coordinated and directed the stunt show that I was in at Six Flags, what is now Six Flags, but used to be Wild World. And so Nick and all of us sort of hung out for like 3 weeks, learning the show, talking about movies and stuff like that. And then come to find out, I didn't know until afterwards that he was this big fucking deal, right? And anyway, I love Nick Brandon. Nick Brandon, I love you. Amazing. Yeah. So I just wanted to mention that. I also wanted to mention that the production designers here, some of this was not shot on location. They meticulously recreated things like the Sistine Chapel and all of those like Vatican City postcard places where the clergy hangs out and all that stuff. And it's just, you wouldn't know. It looked all authentic and real. So yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, it looked great.
Okay. So, if you have not seen Conclave, directed by Edward Berger, starring Ralph Fiennes, Isabella Rossellini, Stanley Tucci, you're going to want to do the sign of the cross and say 5 Hail Marys, because we're going to spoil the shezots out of this in 3, 2, 1. All right. So,
the ending.
Let's talk about that big ending.
Yeah.
Do you want to set it up?
Sure. So, at the beginning of the conclave, I guess we should say, like, this conclave, you mentioned it. They all get locked in a room and have to decide who the next pope is. And it's all the cardinals from around the world, presumably. And one shows up that they never met before. And he was like made a cardinal in secret by the former pope. I did read that in real life, if that were to happen and the pope dies while the person is still like in secret, then they are no longer a cardinal. So... in real life, this wouldn't have happened, but...
Oh, damn!
This guy shows up, and he's a cardinal in Afghanistan. So it seemed like he was a secret cardinal for his sake, like for his protection, I assume.
Or just that he had some sort of bond with the Pope. We don't know what that is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, and then as it goes on... Ralph Fiennes is trying to find out more information on him. He has this little sidekick guy that can go outside of the conclave, and he's like, yeah, give me some information on him. They're like, yeah, the Pope paid for him to take a trip to Geneva for medical reasons, but doesn't seem like a big deal. And it turns out he didn't go through with the operation or the procedure, whatever the medical reason is, but... ends up being a big deal. They vote him as the Pope before they find out. So that's the big twist, is like he gets voted as the Pope. And we can explore why that is, like why he was voted in a second.
Yeah,
but turns out that he was born with ovaries. And all that stuff, and the operation was to get it removed.
Yes. So this is interesting. I don't think that the movie makes it clear what genitalia he actually has.
Correct.
I believe, and I had read on Wikipedia, that the character is intersex, and so raised as a male, which would presume he has outward genitalia, like a penis, but just inside he's intersex and he has ovaries, right?
Yes, because he mentioned he had no idea until he had an appendectomy and they cut him open, and so I presume that it was just on the inside. But it's still probably something that, like,
well, once it hits the news, right?
Yeah. Catholic people might feel a type of way about that.
Okay. So that's the setup. That is the one who wins in some ways. And we should also mention that, you know, it comes out that I think he was he was like a pastor or somebody, like I think I want to say like maybe in an urban city or something, but he chose to go to these sort of war-torn places, to spread the word of God. And we think that is probably why He was made, cardinal. I think they called it pro tempore or something like that. Like whatever that secret thing was, where he waved a magic wand and said, "You're a cardinal." That's not how it works. I know. And so, and let me just also say this. And then the closing image is Ralph Fiennes is now resigned to like, okay, I'm going to go with this. I mean, you got voted. I have to deal with this, basically. And then he looks out the window, and what happens is we have a corner shot of like the grotto or the foyer of a building in this sort of sequestered Vatican, wherever they are. And a door opens, and 3 nuns come out. And they come out, and they're not really, I mean, they look like they're maybe praying, but then they're also laughing and talking. And then they walk out of frame, and in the frame is the door that is open. And then it slowly closes. And then the film ends. So I mention that because, to me, I don't believe that the idea of the intersex pope is that it's a message of like acceptance of transgender, and that transgender people and transgender identity issues. I didn't read it as that's an acceptance of it, and therefore the Catholic Church needs to turn around. What I saw all of this as was not only sort of a message about organized religion being open to the potential of other things, like women in the clergy, women in higher power, acceptance of, lesbian, gay, LGBTQ plus, and transgender, but just acceptance of diversity, moving away from that traditional conservative, here is the word of God, and this is how we run things, no matter what the future is, or how society changes, or how society's views change. And so, even though the Pope is intersex, the new Pope is intersex, what I see the future of this being is there's going to be 2 sides of the argument, right? He shouldn't be the Pope because he's technically a woman. But then the other side of that is, well, wait a minute. Doesn't our religion say, love thy neighbor? Doesn't our religion say human beings are made in the image of man and, in the image of God, right? But we're still human, and we're still fallible and, prone to sin. God created him. How could that be a terrible thing, right? We need to accept that. We need to be open to that potential. Just like the final image of the women and then the door slowly closing, it's like, don't shut the door on this open possibility of, a new interpretation of things, and allowing women and people we think differently of and would not have been accepted under a traditional conservative view. Don't close the door on them. And in a way, it's almost brilliantly talking about faith in the future, faith in looking at and accepting people who are different and have different views, and having the faith that when we come together and we talk about those things, that we can move forward with a wonderful world, And so going back to, we talked about the fact that like the one guy that they want to be a pope is very conservative, and he doesn't like liberals, and he doesn't like LGBTQ, obviously against abortion. And then there's the other guy that, they maybe think is a little too liberal and too open to ideas, and nobody's going to accept this. It's too much like the church. The reason why, is it Martinez is his name? I don't know.
Benitez.
So Benitez speaks up, and he gives that talk about what I was just saying about how we need to be open to these new ideas. And that's where our peace is going to come from. That's where our strength is going to come from. And then they vote him in based on that inspirational message, because he's open-minded enough. But a lot of that comes from his own experience as well, right? He's in a war-torn place. He has obviously searched for his own identity and found the answers. And so I think that's really what the movie's going for, and not some sort of woke agenda.
So part of why I said in my non-spoiler section was like, I don't think they would have voted for him, is because whenever we do the first couple of votes, the like top 3 people are all very conservative. You have the Tescato or something.
Tremblay? Lithgow?
No.
Oh yeah. The Italian, the big mouth guy.
Tedesco. Yeah.
Tedesco. Yeah.
He has like the most votes, and then Adiemi, he has like the second most votes, and then Tremblay has the third most votes. And for all of them, the problem that the Lawrence character and the Stanley Tucci were like, these guys are all way too conservative, way too extreme. And I was just like, they have the 3 most votes. And now someone that they just met, who is a minority that they don't know, gives one very liberal speech about acceptance and all of that. And then now they all vote for him. I was like, I don't see it. I don't see it.
Well, I totally get that. But I mean, look, it's the way it's written, folks, right?
Yeah.
And to be sure, in our new election, some people voted based on just 1 or 2 issues versus looking at everything, looking at policies, right? So that sort of, I think, thinking really does exist, right? Because we're humans. But the other thing I also wanted to say was, like, I know people will probably listen to what I said about why I think the ending is so hopeful, and it's about faith and like opening your mind. Okay, that might sound like the woke agenda. I get it. I get it. But I don't think it's as simple as, oh, the new pope's transgender, because that's not, I don't think that's where they were really going, you know?
I thought it was more of when all these cardinals are not nitpicking, but like they have all these reasons why all these other people shouldn't be the pope, and like their own ambition is the word that keeps coming to my mind. Like everyone has their own ambition and they want to be it. And then finally when they're just like, no, like maybe we should go for something else, it doesn't go the way that they were expecting. Like, yeah, they get this new guy and it's them being like, okay, we don't want this anymore, we'll give it to this guy, he seems to be good. And then they're kind of being punished for it because they didn't do their research. They didn't do what they did for all of the other cardinals and say, well, here's a million reasons why this person shouldn't be it. They didn't do that for this guy. And then now, like, obviously some of them will probably be very angry. Like I'm sure a lot of the, like in the media, they're going to get torn apart and be like, oh, they picked this guy who has both genitalia or whatever. Like, they're going to get torn apart because they didn't look into it.
Now that you said that, though, maybe the point of that whole ending is there's always going to be something where you can look back and say, we didn't do X, or we didn't uncover this about that person. Mm-hmm. And the reason why is because we're all human, even if we're, you know what I mean? We've got all of those same fallacies. And so I maybe based on what you're saying, the message is that there's always going to be something, but we need to progress and move forward, and maybe not get stuck on the 2 extremes, right? Too liberal, too whatever. This is about maybe not so much centrist, right? If we're doing the political analogy, but just the fact that there's always going to be some nitpicky reason, but we need to come together and just move forward, you know?
Yeah.
And you know, I think this is the tough thing about film criticism is it's hard to watch something and be like, that's not how I would have done it, or that doesn't feel real. we have to sort of examine what's actually there and what's given to us, because, okay, yeah, the future might be horrible for them, or all these things could go wrong, but the movie just ends and it doesn't tell us what the future is going to be. So yeah.
And it's hard when it's based on a book. So like, are we really criticizing the movie, or are we criticizing like decisions that the author made when they wrote the book 10 years ago?
Yeah. We should mention that Adeyemi, the other nominated cardinal, is African American. And I don't know. I found the scene where Ralph Fiennes goes to tell him, "You ain't gonna be it." I found that scene really hard to watch, because it comes out that Adeyemi had an affair with a nun, and
30 years ago.
30 years ago, and I think she did get pregnant and had an abortion, right? And then one of the scheming cardinals makes her go there, and then she confronts him, and there's this whole like tray dropping cafeteria scenario where she's yelling at him and all that stuff.
I will say, I thought it was funny. The Adeyemi, in his defense, he was like, "It was 30 years ago. I'm a different man." And they were like, "Yeah, 30 years ago, you were 30. She was 19.
Yes. So there was a lot of like ripped from the headline kind of stuff or whatever. But that scene to watch, I don't know the name of that particular actor, but man, he made that such an uncomfortable scene to watch. And I felt really bad for him, because he was like, for whatever his reasons were, I really want to become Pope. And he seemed intellectual and fine as the movie was going on. But then you realize that moment of weakness 30 years ago, like, gets him out of that spot. But again, maybe that just dovetails with the whole, like, where do we draw the line? Right. And I think this is a big debate about cancel culture, because that's what cancel culture was about. There was this tweet when he was an idiot 19-year-old using the N-word and these racist whatever, but look at everything he's done afterwards. Does that negate his ability to now become XXXX? And we have canceled people for less, folks. Right. Yeah. Anyway, that's why I love this. It works on a lot of levels as a conversation piece, and even just on its own, it's really kind of compelling. Like, I loved how the modern world just keeps crashing in on them. Right? Rosalini's got the computer, and she's like blah 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 blah, and then she puts the password in and walks away. Right? That never would have happened back then. Right? That we would have wait for a fucking letter from a horse to do it, and then like the bombs, right?
That scared the shit out of me.
I know all this violence is happening, but the modern world is crashing in on them. And again, maybe that's just this signal, like, look, even organized religion may have to progress away from its, horse driven delivered message, like traditionalism,
Yeah, that did remind me the bomb scene. That was the first time. So whenever we see the Cardinals doing their votes, and Lawrence is always putting Bellini, Stanley Tucci's character, because he's like, I'm trying to make it you. I don't want it. I don't want it. And then that was the first time that he writes his own name. And as soon as he does, I was like, okay, I don't want this guy to be Pope anymore. Like, it was, ambition caught up to him. We thought, is he going to be immune to this? Is he going to like be who he says he is? But then he wrote his name, and as soon as it drops in the like little voting thing, boom, explosion.
Yeah, that was crazy. And then I think again later there's like a scene where I can't remember what's happening, but like the wind starts like coming through that gap.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, it's the world crashing back in. Like, what are we going to do?
So I was curious, and I'm really pissed that they didn't show us the smoke when they weren't able to come up with a decision. It comes up gray. What color was it when they made the decision?
Well, I think that's also open to interpretation. However, I will say this: you did hear cheering, so I
Yeah.
presume it was the colored smoke that said "We've picked a pope" or whatever.
But I wanted to know what color it was.
Yeah, I know. I felt the same way too. But then
Yeah.
but then when you hear the cheers, it's like, okay, it happened. But
Yeah.
you know, I mean, look, listen, that's just the march of life and progress. Like, shit goes on.
There was another question I had during the entire movie,
Uh-oh.
which was when they did the first vote, the Benitez character from Afghanistan had one vote. And Cardinal Lawrence asks him, why, like, did you vote for yourself or something like that? And he was like, no, I voted for you, Cardinal Lawrence, because you said you don't want it. That's why I'm voting for you. And so I was like, then who voted for Cardinal Benitez? And I thought we were going to like find that out, that there was like someone running this game the whole time to get that guy elected. No, nothing ever happens with it.
That's your over analytical mind. but I agree. There were a lot of there were. It's a little stress toy that my coworker gave me.
Nice.
It throws up, and you squeeze it when you're stressed. But I agree
Am
that
I
they set up
stressing
a
you
bunch
out?
of threads. What's that?
Am I stressing you out right now?
No. I'm just playing around with it, basically.
Okay.
But I will agree that certain threads are set up. What do we call those? Red herrings.
Threads.
Thank you.
Oh.
Red herrings were set up that didn't really go anywhere, but I think that's the writers just fucking with you.
Okay. Well, I'm pissed.
Yeah. Also, I want to say, Vow of Poverty, my butt. Did you see the places that the place that they were staying in with those rooms?
Nice.
I was like, I want that fucking bedroom. Like, seriously.
That's pretty nice.
Wow.
No
wow,
TVs
wow.
though. No TV.
Yeah, exactly. Any other thoughts? I don't know. I love that this is a big discussion starter. I liked it.
So I guess another discussion I'm curious about having is you've mentioned the election a couple of times, and whenever I was leaving the theater, there were two women behind me who were like, this movie should have came out like months ago so people could have seen it before the election. And I guess I don't quite see that. Like, I guess I don't see the parallels really to the United States election, but like, do you? Is that something you could explain to me if you do?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Well, just because
how so?
Just because Tedesco is the business as usual conservative, no moving forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the other candidate was Joe Biden, super perceived as super liberal, blah blah blah.
Stanley Tucci's character?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Or whoever it came down to, whoever was on the other opposite side when Benitez makes the speech.
Yeah, I think it was. Well, at that point, I think it was Lawrence. Now.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
And then Benitez would have been Kamala Harris, right? Or would have been, hey, I might not have that much experience, but this is about values. This is about, moving the needle progressively, like ideologically for a society versus what Trump is going to do. Now, the women saying, I wish it had come out, is because, again, as stressful as this is to watch and what the character goes through, especially what Ralph Fiennes goes through, I think it's a hopeful message that, that any institution ingrained in traditionalism and conservatism can move forward and be open to new ideas for a better society. And it's weird. Again, I didn't want to spoil Heretic, but I had mentioned, Hugh Grant is Trump, basically. Mm-hmm. But the resolution for that film, well, we're in the spoiler section anyway. Well, no, that means spoiling another movie. Anyway, Yeah. But I couldn't help thinking about the election watching both Heretic and Conclave. So I think the women are onto something in the fact that, like, maybe if this had come out before, top of mind, they would be like, well, maybe I want a hopeful future. And also remember it's the religious voters that showed up for Trump because he preached that whole Christian nationalist kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it makes sense.
Maybe. I don't know. You should have asked those two. You should ask those two women to come on as guests.
Oh, I was ready to go home. Do you talk to people after the movie? Like, if you hear people chit chatting?
Sometimes I'll talk to our wonderful ushers at the Regal where I go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Typically, whenever I'm like showing up and they're scanning my tickets or whatever, if I'm seeing a movie like this or something that's not like Godzilla X Kong or, you know, a big blockbuster movie, they're typically like, oh, I've heard really good things about this. Have you seen another movie? And I'm like, oh, I have actually. So that's always fun.
Excellent. Yeah, I fucking love this. It's great. Watch.
Yeah, watch. I agree.
Very, very cool. Okay. So our only feedback, I think, has been that Kevin from Raiders of the Podcast, he actually wrote us and said that he has a spot on their server for us on Discord. And my response was, I don't know how to Discord. I don't even know what you're talking about. And then he explained it to me. But they've saved a spot for us on their Discord. All of this to say that, you know, we have Discord presence. And I'm wondering, because I'm kind of doing a pseudo mass migration from X to Blue Sky. Speaking
Blue
of
Sky?
the election. Oh, Blue Sky?
Yeah, what's up?
It was a Twitter alternative that was created around the time that Tumblr went under, and people were like, where do we go? And it was like Blue Sky, Mastodon. Have you not heard of these things?
No.
Okay. But now that Elon Musk has bought X and is sort of like, you know, now Trump's whipping boy or something. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to be political, but Musk has a lot of influence on Trump and Trump's administration, likely. So a lot of people are leaving Twitter to go to Blue Sky.
They should have done that a long time ago.
I know.
When it was no longer called Twitter.
No, I know. And then, exactly. So I'm sort of doing that pseudo migration, but I'm wondering if we need to start a Threads and a Blue Sky account. But like, I don't have time to update all of these fucking things. But I guess it's necessary if we want to spread our podcasts, which is a reminder again, folks, please like, subscribe, follow, leave a comment. Please get back to us. Send us an email. Do you think Conclave was way too woke? Did we get it wrong? Like, I don't know. Do we think this is going to be a big award winner like Anora, or is it going to get sidelined by some other big project? Let us know. Watch skipplus@gmail.com, or you can find us on Facebook, X, Instagram, which we love. I love Instagram. And Discord. So yeah. And if you love us, you will certainly love our Podfathers, The Gentleman's Guide to Midnight Cinema. Not a Bomb just is going to be, they're going to be doing 2 months of 2024 box office failures. So they started with Last Stop in Yuma County, a little indie, which is fantastic. Please check that out. They did Borderlands. I think I'm the guest on Madam Web. And then you also love Night of the Living Podcast, Wild Dream Podcast, Death by DVD, Raiders of the Podcast, which we just mentioned, Backlook Cinema Podcast, John Horgan's YouTube channel, and now for something a little bit different, I'm going to be on there for Winter Kills, a great unseen Jeff Bridges film, one of his best, Caliber 9 from Outer Space, and Feminine Critique. Also, this is a great back catalog of podcasts, even though they don't have new episodes. Married with Clickers, VHS Files, Silva and Gold, Cult of Muscle, Friends with Cinephites, and MC.
I'm Alex. He's Jose. This is Watch Skip Plus, Save Exhibition by Physical Media, and we will see you at the Sistine Chapel.
Oh, very nice. God bless you. God bless you.